Hello and welcome to our course on Excel 2016. My name is Toby and I am your instructor on this course. I'm based in the UK and I am a Microsoft certified professional, and one of my main specialisms is in Microsoft Excel. In fact, I'm a Moz Excel specialist. Now, I'm sure you're keen to get started on learning Excel, and we're going to get started on it as soon as possible, but I do have some very important things to tell you about in this section. If you've used Excel before, it would still be a good idea for you to follow through this section. You may be able to avoid the very last part where I talk about how to acquire and install Excel. If you already have Excel installed, you probably don't need that part. But I'd like you to stick with me for most of this section. First of all then, who is this course for? Well, primarily I've written this course for people who are completely new to Excel. Now, I do assume that you have a good basic knowledge of Windows, and I do assume that you're familiar with some of the terms I'm going to use in terms of operating a modern Windows PC. You'll understand things like keyboard shortcuts, and you may even be using a touch device. I'll come back to touch devices in just a moment. If you've used a much older version of Excel, say pre-2007, you might also find this course particularly useful because since those early versions of Excel, a lot of things have changed. For example, there's no longer a menu system, we now use a ribbon. If you've used more recent versions of Excel, say Excel 2010 or Excel 2013, the changes in Excel 2016 are mainly in more advanced topics, so in things like BI, business intelligence, and in pivot tables. There are not really many changes that affect the basics of Excel. There are one or two new features, as you'll see early on in this course, but most of the features at the basic to intermediate level have not changed substantially from Excel 2013 to Excel 2016. Also, if you've used another spreadsheet product and you'd really like to learn Excel, many of the features of that other spreadsheet product will probably be very similar to Excel. So, for example, you'll be familiar with the ideas of rows and columns and cells. But it is important that you follow through this course systematically, because it's the details where products tend to differ. And whereas in another product you may be able to say, add the values of some numbers in a column in one way, in Excel it might well be completely different. So really this course is aimed at complete newcomers, people who have used other products but want to learn Excel, and people who've used much earlier versions of Excel than 2016. Now, if you have used a more recent version of Excel, I will try to point out at various times where the main new changes are so that you can pay particular attention to those. The next very important point is that particularly with Excel 2016, as with the rest of Office 2016, you now have versions of Excel which are different on different devices. So you have the conventional desktop copy of Excel, either the PC version, which is the version we're using here, or the Mac version. But you also have versions of Excel that can run on devices such as tablets, and that can also basically run in a browser, what's called the Office mobile apps, and specifically here the Excel mobile app. This course is about the desktop version of Excel, if you like, the conventional version, the version that some people call the full-fat version of Excel, the one with everything in it. The mobile apps are very good, particularly for use on mobile devices, but they are still cut-down versions of the desktop apps, and it's the desktop app that we're looking at in this course. Given the number of devices that you can now run Excel on, it's not surprising that you may well be considering operating Excel using a touch device, using your fingers rather than using a keyboard and mouse. On this course I am primarily using a keyboard and mouse. I will demonstrate some items using touch. The device I'm recording this course on handles both keyboard and mouse and touch, and in fact you can also use gestures in front of the screen, although it's rather difficult to record those on a course like this. But primarily I'll be using keyboard and mouse. Now from this point onwards in this section I'm going to be talking about the requirements to run Excel 2016 and how you can acquire it. So if you're already running it, you may not need to watch the section beyond this point. I still recommend that you follow it through, because hopefully the information I'm going to give you and the links I'm going to be indicating will be helpful to you. Just before you leave, if you're going to though, just point out that I'm running on Windows 10. So I'm going to be using Excel 2016 on Windows 10 on this course. Now the system requirements for Office get more complicated every time I look at them, and because there are so many ways that you can get Office and therefore Excel now, so many different configurations, there are a lot of different system requirements. Looking at the list here, you have sort of 5 routes really. You have the Office 365 subscription plans, whereby you basically buy a subscription to Office 365. It gives you some online facilities, and in most cases you get the downloadable desktop applications as well, although not in all cases. So make sure that if you're going to use an Office 365 subscription to follow this course, that you do get the downloadable Excel 2016. You can buy the Office 2016 suite, so you can buy a suite of desktop applications which is only the desktop applications. You do get 1 or 2 other things as well. You get things like cloud storage, come back to that later. You can also run Office 2016 and therefore Excel 2016 on certain Office server products, and you can still buy Office standalone applications. So for instance, you can just buy Excel 2016 as a standalone application. You don't have to get it as part of Office, although an awful lot of people do. So let's suppose you decide to buy an Office 2016 suite that will include Excel 2016. Amongst the options are Office Home and Student 2016, and the requirements listed there include the available operating systems: Windows 10, Windows 8.1, Windows 8, Windows 7 Service Pack 1. If you're still on Vista or XP, I'm afraid you're out of luck as far as Excel 2016 is concerned. You're going to need to upgrade your operating system. At the time of recording, of course, Windows XP is already obsolete, and of course Vista's days are numbered now as well. So the first thing to do is to check that your hardware is up to running Excel on its own if you're going to buy the standalone product, or Office 2016 in one of its various configurations, and then you also need to make sure that you have a suitable operating system. Now, something to bear in mind whenever I show you pages like this one from Microsoft.com or Office.com is that these pages, by the time you see this video, have probably been changed and updated. So you always need to go to the relevant link in order to get the latest information. The link itself, of course, may change. So my advice usually is to go to Microsoft.com and use the search facility. And in this case, you'd search for system requirements for Office to see the latest version of this information. So if you haven't got Excel 2016 yet, how do you get hold of a copy? Well, first of all, you check that your hardware and your software are up to the job, as I indicated just now. Then you either buy a copy or you get a free trial version. You can buy a copy from your local computer store, probably. You can buy copies online, either from Microsoft themselves or from other well-known online retailers, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Or you can get a trial version. There's a try for free version here for home or for business. So let's say try for free for home. And that gives us the option to try Office 365 for free. Now, I won't keep saying this, but I will say it just this once more. Don't forget, these pages may well have changed by the time you come to use this video, and this trial offer may also change. But basically at the time of recording this, it's fairly typically a 1 month free trial based on Office 365. So that's a pretty good deal, and if you crack on with it, you can probably get through this course in a month, including doing the exercises, and then you'll be fully confident in Excel before you actually spend money on it. One thing that I certainly won't be covering on this course is how to install and activate Office 2016 or Excel 2016 on your device. There are so many different options now that you really need to go to Microsoft.com to check that. For example, if you go to Office 365 Frequently Asked Questions and scroll down there are a couple of very useful sections here. There's a section on Office trials which will tell you about the setup for trials, the steps you need to take to sign up for a trial, for example. And then further down on this page, it's got sections there such as how do I install Office? How can I install Office on my Mac, and so on. So the instructions you need are there embedded within these pages with links to various other locations on Microsoft.com or Office.com. That's a much better source for information about installing Office or Excel than I can provide, and of course you should always look for the most up-to-date information. So from this point onwards, I'm going to assume that you have Excel installed. And from my Windows 10 desktop, what I'm going to do is go down to the search box down there and start typing Excel. And there is Excel 2016. Note desktop app, it's the desktop app that we need. And when Excel 2016 starts up, you should see something like this. Now I'm going to explain this screen to you a little bit more in a couple of sections' time. And that's where we're going to carry on and start using Excel. But I've got one or two other things to explain first. And the first of those is the location and use of the course files and the exercise files that we're going to be using throughout this course. And that's what we're going to cover in the next section. So the first thing you need to do is to make sure that you can start up the Excel 2016 desktop app and that you can see something like this. That's the end of this section. I'll see you in the next one.